Hello. So I was obsessed as a kid with cartooning from as early as I can remember. These were literally the first 2 pieces of my comic book collection. And I think I actually learned to read by reading comics. And by the time I was in 2nd grade, I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a cartoonist. And through good fortune or perhaps tenacity, I've spent my entire adult life writing and drawing little picture stories and published a lot of graphic novels and comics. I've also, for almost 30 years, been teaching comics. I've taught in prisons and in Ivy League schools. I've taught in high schools and homeless shelters. I've been working with Muslim and Sunni women in Bahrain. And most recently, I've been at the White River Junction VA, where I've been working with veterans who are dealing with substance abuse and PTSD issues. And as my introducer noted, I started a college for cartoonists, the Center for Cartoon Studies, where not only do we teach people, the next generation, to make comics, but we also, my colleagues and I, explore ways that comics can be applied to other fields. If there's one thought that I want to leave everybody with today, it's that comics, this instantly engaging medium, is like the source code for communication in the digital age. And if we learn this code, comics can teach us how to better communicate with all the various media that we now have at our disposal. One huge advantage of bringing comics into a workshop setting is that everybody has positive associations with the medium. They grew up reading Calvin and Hobbes, or like myself, they were obsessed with superhero comics growing up and have to see all the big budget blockbusters now. Or maybe it's the little strips that they cut out that get them through their days that they put on their cubicle, or it's Betty and Veronica that gets them excited. But I think one of the magical properties of comics is its simplicity and directness. When I go into a workshop setting, I'll have a dry erase board, a big sheet of paper, and I'll start doodling. I'll do something that anybody in the class could copy. And there's just something really neat about watching somebody create art, which we saw earlier today, as all of a sudden these little abstract shapes and forms start coming together and to become greater than the sum of their parts. And I think what's really really special about it too, it's not just that these little simple shapes became a dog, right? They somehow take on a personality, a spirit, that we can empathize with these little abstract shapes. That seems utterly remarkable to me. Now, it's one thing watching someone draw, but it's another thing when you turn the tables and you ask somebody else to draw. And that can often create a lot of anxiety. Not with the young kids. Like if you're 1st grade or younger, it's like all play. You just dive in and you create. But for the older the group that I've worked with, the more anxiety that people take on about this act of drawing. And that's usually expressed in 3 words. I can't draw. How many people have ever said that? I'm just out of curiosity. I want you in one of my workshops. Right? I've been, my life's work, right? My life's work is making comics and teaching to make comics. So this I can't draw thing, it's just not going to fly with me, right? I find it's unacceptable, right? So I'll tell people, like, fine, you can't draw, right? But you just saw the little dog that I doodled, right? Anybody could do that. I'm not asking people to draw some like realistically rendered pet portrait, right? I don't think I could draw that, right? I'm asking you to make a pictogram of a dog, right? I'm asking you to make a symbol of a dog, right? Now, this is Nancy. I don't know if any of you know Nancy by the late, great Ernie Bushmiller. And if I saw a kid that looked like this in the street, I would find it really, really disturbing, right? But it's a pictogram of a kid. It's comics or pictures that you read. And what a comic strip is, basically, is stringing these pictures together, one after another, to tell a story. So here, Ernie Bushmiller presents us with 4 panels of love and jealousy and retribution, revenge, call it what you will. All right, I want to share with you an exercise that I do in one of my workshops. I pass out cards that have little scenarios written on them, all right? Maroon concert pianist playing a grand piano on a desert island desert island to an audience of crabs. The one thing I'm allowed to read, I can't get right? Blind man being led by a lawnmower at seeing eye dog relaxes in hammock. King Kong and Godzilla atop the Eiffel Tower fending off an alien invasion. And like the chuckles I just heard in the crowd, when I hand these cards out, I hear laughter, right? Because what happens is your brain is taking these words and then translating it into an image in your brain, right? So it's as if your brain is wired to make comics. And the workshop is to get all the people that say they can't draw to be able to see that image as clearly as they can and then get it out of their head and onto a sheet of paper, okay? So to start this process, I usually ask people to close their eyes. So we can play along at home just for a second. Close your eyes for a second, nothing to look at up there, see? And try to imagine what Godzilla would look like, all right? Try to imagine Godzilla's head. Is it triangular? Is it a square? Is it a rectangle? He's got those big hind legs, right? And tiny little arms. Can you see that in your mind's eye? Those scales that go from the top of his head all the way down his spine to the end of that long tapering tail. Okay, you can open your eyes now. So there's a saying in cartooning that it's not the ink, it's the think. So we'll go through each element of this scenario in the class, just talking about it, trying to see it as clearly as we can. And then I'll hand out a sheet of 8.5 by 11 copy paper and a Sharpie, and then I'll take out my, my phone or my timer, and I'll set it to 3 minutes and say, we're gonna draw that in 3 minutes now. And usually there's a lot of like, like howls of protest, what are you gonna do? Oh, no, shut up, all right, everybody, on your mark, get set, like go. And it's a great everyone's like super locked in, right? The only time I've ever seen people like this locked in is like when they're playing like a really intense video game. And like, and when that ding, timer goes off, everyone puts down their pens, and we share our drawings. And whether I'm working with cadets at West Point or more recently my daughter's 5th grade Waldorf classroom, the drawings look something like this. And the first reaction to everybody is usually laughter because they're funny drawings. And the other thing is people, like they're not so self-conscious about it, right? Because they had to use a pen. You couldn't erase anything, right? Secondly, it was 3 minutes. What can you do in 3 minutes? So even the people that thought they could draw, their drawings look like the ones that people think they couldn't draw. And after the laughter dies down a little bit, we have what we call in graduate school a crit. And like most crits, you don't have to say anything as the instructor. People will be like, wow, you did the alien invasion with a series of ovals. That's really cool. And somebody's thinking to themselves, I didn't mean for my Eiffel Tower to look like it was wearing a skirt, but it kind of is. Somebody else is gonna be like, you know, why does my King Kong look like the Cookie Monster or a bear, you know? And we'll talk about like what are the marks that you can make to make something look more gorilla-like, to make something look more like King Kong. I love how in that King Kong, like that alien ship upside down looks like an acorn when it's upside down. So we'll talk about that. And after that conversation, we go back to the drawing board and we do it again. And what's really remarkable with the second set of drawings is it's always an improvement. The characters are better articulated. The staging is a lot better. And this whole thing takes 50 minutes to an hour. And usually, the cartoonist came, you entertained us, goodbye, when can you come back again? That was a lot of fun. But I'd like to flatter myself and think that there was a lot of really important concepts that I introduced into the classroom on this day. And I'd like to unpack a few of those right now. First and foremost is graphic design, right? The thing about cartooning, like Dilbert, Kathy, these things aren't drawn really. It's more about graphic design. It's about communicating. Secondly, I just talked about staging, right? What is staging but deciding what to put front and center, what to leave off to the sides, right? What to take out entirely. You have to tell a story using visual information hierarchy. And the timer is really important for this element of it too, right? That 3 minutes forces you to think about, like, what do I have to get down right away, right? The equivalent of that is like in an English class when you have to outline an essay and you put all your salient points in your outline and this prevents you from getting lost in the weeds. There's always a kid that wants to like cross-hatch and do all the, gets lost in it, and that is taken away from them. And finally, the third part of this is process. We're awash in media right now. And somehow we almost think that it spontaneously generates, but it doesn't. Everything that's created is usually part of a process, and we introduce a process, okay? So we first visualize something, right? And then we try to craft what we visualized. Craft, okay. And then we step back, and we evaluated what we crafted. Then we went back to the drawing board, and we revised, right? And this process is the same whether you're doing a year-end report, whether you're doing a business proposal or a presentation here, okay? And whether you're doing a year-end report, a business proposal, or a year-end, or a talk, a TED Talk, right? You're not just using words anymore, right? You're using images and pictures. We've moved on from the typewriter, okay? We're using tablets, we're using the phones, we're using the computers, and these are image writers. And these image writers, they capture images, they generate images, and then we take those images and we arrange them in a certain way, and then we share them to tell a story. This is what cartoonists have been doing for a long, long time. Cartoonists have been embedding narratives in visual architecture. We are at a time in this technological age where we have to be as fluent with pictures as we are with words, right? We have to learn that language of pictures, and if you're going to learn the language of pictures, you have to start at the beginning, with the basic building blocks. So before we spend ungodly sums on IT consultants and software and operating systems, I suggest that we use comics to teach the fundamentals of visual literacy. And as we sally forth, that's a comic strip, by the way, into this brave new world, we can all speak more fluently with each other with pictures. Thank you very much. Hey. I'm sorry, I got one more thing here before I cede the stage. I got 3 minutes left, I noticed on my timer. I just want to, my parents are here, and my mom's birthday's today, and I've got 3 minutes, so happy birthday, Mom. And those first 2 slides that I showed, the Fantastic Four and the Peanuts, my mom bought those for me. So thank you.